Hello, Cecilia. It's such a pleasure to have you here at VoxFem, being part of our interview of women artists. It is so great talking to you because I've always have loved your work, and I couldn't wait until I was going to be part of this process of asking you and meeting with you about what you do.
Hello, Liliana. It is my pleasure to be here, and I'm very grateful to you and to Vox, the whole team of Vox. It's a pleasure to be here.
When was the moment that you kind of knew that you were going to be an artist, or that you felt like you were an artist, or even if you didn't have the label, the title?
I honestly cannot pinpoint a moment that I can identify as, the decisive moment of that I wanted to become an artist. What I can do is I remember certain moments of periods in my life that are intimately connected to that. One is, it sounds very cheesy, but it's the truth. I started school like most kids, most children in Mexico at age 4, going to kindergarten. At age 4, I was really looking forward to going to school. I have an older sister, 3 years older than I am, and she was already in school, and I looked up to her, and I was just dreaming of going to school. And so my first day of school, I'm in the classroom. I have this beautiful young woman, my teacher. And the first thing we did in school was she said, pull out your notebook. And the parents were asked to buy us a notebook, all white paper, no squares, no lines, white paper. And the teacher said, let's draw. And I drew a tree. I remember the tree very well. Which child doesn't like to draw, right? We don't know how to read yet. We don't know how to write, but we love to draw. So it's like any other child. But I remember very vividly, it's because it was wonderful. When I was around 6 or 7, I told my mother something like this, like she always helped me or tried to help me. And I say, I've noticed that whenever you help me my homework, particularly my drawings, I get a lower grade. And so that was probably offensive, but I realized that. I realized at that moment I was able to draw better than my mother. And so then I just never asked for help again. And it was around 10 or 11 that I had seen paintings from, adults. One in particular was my aunt, crazy aunt, a sister of my mother, who was taking painting lessons. And at that around 10 or 11, that's when I said, yes, I want to learn how to paint. Perhaps that's when that's when I started devoting, significant amount of time in my week to drawing and painting and taking formal classes. My father was a urologist, a surgeon, and he also did sculpture. I mean, big things. He carved wood and he did sculptures in bronze and stone. And so I grew up with that. I grew up with this man that had a full-time job as a doctor, a surgeon, and in his free time, he will do sculptures. And normally he didn't have the space at home to do it, but he will go to the house of one of his friends, an architect, and this architect had a huge studio in the back of his house. And often my father would say, would you like to come and help me with the sculpture? And because he first would build it in plastilina, like Play-Doh, and then sort of make the cast. And so I often will go with him, and I love that. That kind of help was, pass me this tool, put some water in here, pass me the other tool, just learning by watching. I was never interested in sculpture, but it interests me even more in the art. My mother, nothing. She's very good at other things, but not in the visual arts. Yeah. I was born and grew up in Mérida in the state of Yucatan. At that time, there were no art supply stores, period, none. So what my teacher did is she had different groups of students, they will go to her house different days of the week. I will go there Saturday because I was in school. She will have a pad and she will tell us, if you run out of whatever color of oil paints or brush or whatever, write it down here. So they will make a list. And it was word of mouth. The aunt of the cousin of whoever is going to go to Mexico City next month. So we will give that list to that person, and that person will buy everything for us and come back with all the art supplies. So for me, until this day, an art supply, a tube of paint or a brush is of extreme value.
Later on, you decided to go into astrophysics. You didn't choose to study art.
I was, finishing high school, and everybody was telling me, you really have to pick, you really need to, that's what, we tell all our kids, right? You need to decide what you're going to do with your life. I like so many things. I was having a very hard time. My father had this idea that, he said, you like drawing, you like math, you like physics, then you should study architecture. And I said, no, no, I don't want to study architecture. What I really enjoyed the most was reading about science in general. So I thought, okay, I want to study science. And then, so I had to narrow it down. I said, okay, I want to study physics. And my thinking was that I had so many years of formal training in drawing and painting, and it worked out so well that I could continue that way. But it was hard for me to believe that I could be a self-taught physicist. So I thought that I cannot do on my own. So I decided to go to college and study physics and never stop taking art classes with professional. When I moved to Mexico City to go to college and study physics, and that's when I started taking classes in printmaking in Taglio. And again, it was on a Saturday because that's what my schedule allowed. But I never stopped. It's just, it continues since I was 10 or 11. And I guess, I go back to my father. That's what I saw since I was very, very young, I saw this man doing both things, and he was good at both. And he was really happy with the combination.
We are going to be looking at your pieces. We have curated a few pieces, and we would like to see if you can talk to us about what inspired you.
Yes, the first one, all that blue, the sea, is called Atlantics, and it's not a typo. It's in plural, Atlantics. And the title I got from the movie Atlantics, it's really it's a love story, a very sad love story. You can watch it in Netflix. And at some point in the movie, the camera just has this view of what you're seeing here, but it's moving. You see the pulsation of the water, up and down, very softly. And it's a long scene, the most mesmerizing scene I have seen on TV or a movie, actually more than in real life. It is just so beautiful. I stopped the TV and said, this is something I want to see forever. And I took a picture of it. And I used that picture as the model for this painting, Atlantics. And so I started the painting, and then the pandemic came, totally isolation. And this was my medicine. This has been my medicine painting. It became a ritual. Every Sunday, I will paint. This painting has 7 hues of blue. It has about 10 layers. It's hard to see here, but that's how it is. And so it was layer by layer by layer by layer, and I will put music, and it became my routine, my soothing routine. We sort of started in relying in our own internal routines because that was all we had.
The bread. Yeah, I think this is a very curious piece for me because it's just magnificent, and I really want to know everything that you can tell me about this piece.
I painted this many years before Atlantics. This is kind of a relatively not so new piece. I had been working on a series of, I would say still life, but just one thing, like one orange, like one lemon, like one tomato, one onion, just by itself. And I thought, I'm not giving bread the credit that it deserves, at least in my life. I wanted to make a painting sort of like it would be kind of an altar to the bread. It's the love I have for bread. That's Isla Mujeres. That's what I consider paradise on earth. I'm sure there are many more beautiful places on earth, and I haven't had the chance to visit them. But among the places that I have visited, this is paradise for me. It is the color. It is the water. Some people are really connected to mountains. Other people are connected to forest. I'm really connected to water, particularly the sea. And the colors of the Caribbean Sea are just out of this world. All the blues and greens you can imagine. And the temperature of the water, it's warm. It's in the Yucatan Peninsula. It's in the neighboring state, Quintana Roo. That's close to Cancun. Many people know where Cancun is.
Yeah.
So it's very small, which I think it has protected the island from development because it's so small. Yes, that's Sunday morning. That's a big old painting. It's like 50 inches by 50 inches, something like that.
It's a beautiful piece. I've always loved this piece. I mean, it's so majestic.
I love all flowers. Tulips in particular. I've made a series of tulips. I just wanted a huge tulip. That's all I wanted. And I wanted it red. And I called it Sunday morning because it's a totally free day for me. And so when I think of Sunday morning, it's always with a smile. This red tulip makes me smile, makes me happy. And that's how I feel on Sunday morning.
My favorite.
Yes, again, this is part of a series that I made in basically black and white. When I get close to the water, I immediately get relaxed. I don't know why. All my problems disappear. Actually, my mind sort of goes into some kind of meditative state. Not only state of mind, I mean physically. I made this series of black and white ocean just because I wanted to experiment how I would feel, with an ocean without the color, without the blues. When you look at a black and white photograph, it seems like dreamlike. Or when you look at a drawing just, graphite, just black pencil, it can give you the dreamlike quality, something that in color one doesn't get. When I look at my seascapes in black and white, it feels more like it has a dream quality to me.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was the intention of this wave, huge wave.
Yeah, what I want to say about this piece, Cecilia, to me too, all of that you have said, but I would like to add the fact that this is it's like an exact moment, because that moment that is depicted in this piece, it's only can happen in the present moment. And that's what is like a painting of a present moment.
Andromeda. I made a series, probably about 10 pieces based on constellations, star constellations. This one was the first, Andromeda. And so, and this originated when I was still in graduate school, studying astrophysics. And I found a book. I have it here. It's a book published in Russia in 1960. And it has these beautiful plates. This plate is from an engraving, from an etching that Johannes Hevelius, an astronomer from the 1600s, made. So here is this astronomer looking at stars with his telescope and making charts. But he didn't end just with the stellar charts. With scientific data, because that was, he was mapping, he was putting the location of all the stars that he could observe at that time. Using his stellar charts, he made prints. So using the location of all the stars, then he made the drawing and he etched it on the plate, and then he printed the plate. So it's a book, it's a historical book, a historical astronomical book, because there's stellar charts, but it also is an art book. All this, he made both, the prints and the stellar charts. So I thought, when I saw those beautiful drawing, the plates, I said, okay, I'm going to use this for a series of oil paintings, and this is where they come from. So what you're looking at here is the way you would look in this, what you will see in the sky in that direction in the 1600s, which has changed a little, but not a lot. So, and yeah, and this is relatively large, too, as big as the tulip, probably like 50 inches by 50 inches. I don't know, it felt very close to my heart, because somehow I felt this connection with this astronomer of the 1600s who was doing that, observing stars and making prints, making etchings. So when I started this series, I didn't have access to a press anymore. So I thought, well, but I can paint them.
So in your life, what would you say that is the relationship between you being an astrophysicist and an artist? Can you talk a little bit about that, the influence of astronomy into your life?
The thing with science and the arts, they share one thing in common. Well, they share many things, but one is creativity. It's at the core of both, People that do science and people who do art are very creative people. It's having fun. It's enjoying it. It's enjoying the process, not fighting it.
As an astronomer, knowing that there is a whole world that most people in the earth, well, that's my experience anyway, don't really look up much to the stars and and they don't really think about looking up or nothing. It's just basically we're here and we can't see that we're belong in this incredible universe. Do you think that studying all of that changed you as a person, or did it change you?
Oh yes, oh yes, it did change me. I think compared to another person, I think I have this ability, thanks to astronomy, to see that my problems are not real problems, you know, or that the problems with a solution is just figuring out how to solve them, you know. There's just a beautiful, I think, YouTube video by Carl Sagan that I believe every human being should watch. This pale blue dot, and by that he means Earth. How you would see Earth from way, you know, way back in space. You will see this tiny pale blue dot. And just listening to him is, and that's another thing. I think when I was still in high school, I watched this program, Cosmos, of Carl Sagan. I think it had a tremendous influence, not only me, but many people of my generation. It was just so different from anything that we could hear and watch on TV, you know? And first of all, it was this man who was so eloquent, so clear in talking about science to a general audience. You know, he was so good at it. And to hear the vastness of the universe that we live in. I think that's when I first started to feel awe. I had not felt awe before. This, el asombro, ¿sí? El asombro del mundo en que vivimos. To feel awe, that's when astronomy gave me that. It gives humility. It makes you humble.
And that's why I love your art, because, you know, you show us the oceans, you show us the planets, you show us so many things. Like, it's almost like you're looking at us from up there instead of from here. That's the way I feel about your work.
Thank you, Liliana. Thank you, Liliana, for having me here, for your time and for your kind words. Thank you so much, and I thank Vox for everything.
We are here at VoxFem. We're very grateful that you took time of your life to come and share your knowledge with us. We love your work very much.
Thank you. Un abrazo.